so sorry. I have an opinion on everything. And I am most distressed about.
Excuse me, you've already spoken, ma'am.
I can't speak again?
I don't think it was every other time that you got up here, you can speak. I think it was more like 2 minutes.
I only spoke once, ma'am.
Excuse me.
That's okay. I am, and I will wait. I just didn't know I needed to wait till we leave.
Good evening, District 87 board members. My name is Becky Swan. I gave you my address 2 weeks ago. If you want to know it again, I can give you my business card.
It has not, all we're asking is if it has changed.
It has not changed.
Okay.
So the rest of my friends that are gonna speak tonight do not have to disclose where they live to the media and 100 other people they don't know. Specifically, the girl who likes to laugh and that.
Oh, for God's
You can move on.
The floor
I'm
is
just making
yours.
sure I don't have to give you my address.
The floor is yours.
Awesome. All right, in regards to the comments that were made after we spoke 2 weeks ago, Barry Riley talked to WGLT. He said our comments were disappointing. They don't represent the community. And what was the other thing that you said? We were a hard pill to swallow.
Whoa.
So I wanted to make sure we came back, Barry, and I'm gonna address you specifically because you decided to make those comments instead of saying anything else in regards to what any of us talked about. You just wanted to call us disappointing, and only my dad got to call me disappointing. So, let me remind you that I'm a District 87 student. I went to Stevenson School, I went to Bloomington Junior High School, and I'm a 1993 graduate of BHS. And I would like to read you this. Illinois legislatures passed a bill requiring that any school district teaching sex education must use the National Sex Education Standards, otherwise known as NSES. This is an unfunded mandate that destroys local control over curriculum. It sexually grooms young children by introducing sensitive and inappropriate topics. Introduces topics many youth would be uncomfortable discussing and is therefore a form of sexual harassment. This is a sampling of NSES. This is K through 2. This is kindergarten through 2nd grade. Number 1, they need to be able to identify different kinds of families. For example, nuclear, single parent, blended, intergenerational, cohabiting, adoptive, foster, same gender, interracial. Number 2, they need to define gender identity, and define gender role stereotypes. Number 3, they need to list medically accurate names for body parts, including the genitals, because their parents didn't do that when they were little. Grades 3 through 5, they need to explain common human sexual development and the role of hormones. Grades 3 through 5. The role of hormones. For example, romantic and sexual feelings, masturbation, mood swings, and timing of pubertal onset. Number 2, they need to describe the role hormones play in the physical, social, cognitive, and emotional changes during adolescence and the potential role of hormone blockers on young people who identify as transgender. Number 3, they need to explain the differences between cisgender, transgender, gender non-binary, gender expansive, and gender identity, and explain that gender expression and gender identity exists among the spectrum. Number 4, they need to differentiate between sexual orientation and gender identity. Grades 6 through 8, they need to define vaginal, oral, and anal sex.
Whoa.
Number 2, they need to define sexual identity and explain a range of identities related to sexual orientation, including heterosexual, bisexual, lesbian, gay, queer, two-spirit, asexual, and pansexual. I have pictures for you if anyone needs any further descriptions.
That's not true.
Grades 9 through
Again,
12
please.
differentiate between sex assigned at birth and gender identity and gender expression, and identify factors that impact the risk of unintended pregnancy and potential transmission of STDs, including HIV, from a variety of sexual behaviors, including vaginal, oral, and anal sex. And number 3, define reproductive justice and explain its history and how it relates to sexual health. So, I'm supposed to take action now, and number 1 says, write, call, or speak to your board and demand that your school board pass a resolution stating they will not enforce this curriculum mandate and request a full veto by the governor for SB 818. Telling them that only mean they agree with the sexualization of young children. Number 2, ask your superintendent, the principal, and legislators to request the governor veto the legislation, and share this information with all your friends and families and neighbors and all your friends and family in Illinois, because, Barry, 62% of Illinoisans oppose comprehensive sex education. 62% of my community oppose this.
Excuse me, your 5 minutes is up.
My 5 minutes cannot possibly be up, Mr. Wiley. So I brought with me a book. First of all, my question 2 weeks ago was to ask you why Jackie Gunderson came to the school and spoke to your staff for 2 days straight. A failed mayoral candidate, a failed county board candidate. And she came to your school when she procures bids for ISU with construction, and came to your school and spoke to your staff for 2 straight days. Why did she do that? This is why she did that.
Whoa.
This is why she did that. To make sure that when our students want to know whether or not they have a vagina or a penis, they have pictures from your staff to be able to help them. They don't have enough
Excuse me,
sex.
ma'am, your
They
time
don't
is
have
up. I
enough
would ask
anal
you to
sex.
please-
They need adults to tell them how to masturbate. And when
No, don't stop.
so
Say
you're
it like
gonna
kids.
have
Ma'am,
a hard
I-
time
please,
hearing this
someone
from
else
me, but
speak.
this is for 10 years old and up, and this bill was passed for 5-year-olds. And you have a hard time, me sitting here telling you the words anal sex, masturbation, that's hard for you, or the time's up, because the time's not really up. I don't believe you, Mr. Wiley, that my time is up. But I'm gonna end with this. I'll close with this, because this was too much for you, I can tell right now, and that's why you're cutting me off. But last time I said, you know what, critical race theory. Little girl in the back was laughing every single time Megan said something, because white people oppress black people, right? Isn't your principal black? Isn't your mayor black? Now I would like to introduce King Ty Smith. Mr. Ty Smith, a black man, if you cannot tell. He has 150,000 followers. And he's gonna make sure he doesn't get interrupted by Mr. Wiley, because sex for children was too much for him.